Viridian, the Green Guide. Written by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down. And read by Eleanor Elizabeth. Chapter 2. The First Day of the Rest of My Life. When Izuku arrived at school the next day, his classmates had already heard both about Kacchan's invitation to jump off a roof and Izuku's idiotic run-in with the sludge villain, and they had apparently decided that these two must be related. "Hey loser, there's a lot easier ways to kill yourself." He was just being an attention hog. Can you imagine wanting to die on live TV? Izuku ignored them. He didn't want to kill himself. That was stupid, and would break his mother's heart. Not to mention that if he killed himself, Kacchan would get in trouble for suicide baiting him. There were a lot of reasons why the teachers didn't bother reporting Kacchan for his more explosive tendencies. But one of them was that if Kacchan's treatment of him were discovered, he might not be able to go to UA, and Izuku wouldn't be able to live with himself if he was the reason Kacchan didn't become a hero. Well, he wouldn't be living at all in that hypothetical situation, would he? Whatever, it was still the same concept. If he were to die doing vigilante stuff, on the other hand. Izuku shook his head. He really shouldn't be thinking about stuff like that. It wasn't normal. He sat down at his desk and sighed at the flowers someone had put on it. Apparently, there had been some sort of unspoken barrier against telling Izuku to kill himself, but now that Kacchan had blown that barrier up, all the other students were more than happy to follow his lead. Izuku glanced over towards Kacchan, who was very determinedly not looking at Izuku. No, Izuku should stop thinking everything was about him. Kacchan just thought the view out of the window was much more interesting to look at than a worthless Deku like him, and he was right. Izuku grabbed the flower and went to throw it away amidst a chorus of giggles and whispers from his classmates. He could handle this. It wasn't really that much worse than it had been, and Izuku was used to insults and threats. Why should this new evolution be any different? Izuku had been wrong. Suicide baiting was different than what he'd been through before. A few days ago, he definitely suspected that most people would be happy if he died, but now he knew it. Was life even worth living anymore? Maybe it would be easier. But Izuku still couldn't be responsible for getting Kacchan in trouble or making his mum feel guilty. He frowned as he started to walk home. Being quirkless sucked. Maybe he should go out and do some vigilante stuff later? When he researched it last night, he'd originally planned on waiting a few months to go out so he could get in shape and maybe get some fight training. But after the day he'd just had, well, he wasn't going to go intentionally put himself in danger. He was just going to go out and get the lay of the land, right? He took a detour to a nearby shopping centre on the way back home, since he didn't really have anything appropriate to wear for, technically, legal crime fighting. His mum would be so worried if he somehow got a cold because he didn't dress warmly enough before going out all night, so he couldn't just wear one of his t-shirts. The problem was that all of his jackets and hoodies were hero merch. Not that there was anything wrong with wearing hero merch, but there'd been another vigilante, the Crawler, who wore an all-might hoodie. Izuku didn't want people thinking that he was the Crawler because what if that guy got in trouble for what he did? Besides, it wasn't very polite to steal someone's signature look. He ended up buying a dark green hoodie. It was thick enough that it would keep him warm, and the dark colour would help him blend into the shadows. Black would probably be better, but the store was out of black, and he was left to choose between green or navy. So he figured, may as well match his hair. There was a costume store next door to the department store that he brought the hoodie at, so he decided to walk around and see what he could find to hide his identity. After looking at probably way too many different kinds of masks, he groaned in frustration. The simplest option would be to choose a simple domino mask, but one good punch and it would be flying off his face. Not to mention that it might slip around and impair his field of vision, which wouldn't be safe at all. He was about to leave when he walked past a display of different goggles. That might be useful if someone tried to throw dirt in his eyes or something, right? The only problem was that he would be going out at night. The goggles would need to be tinted to hide his face, but then they'd darken his field of vision. Izuku frowned, then noticed a sticker on one of the brands. Quirk enhanced, won't colour your vision. That would work. Izuku tried on a pair, and sure enough, even though he should be seeing everything in hot pink, the world looked completely normal. He shook his head a few times to see if they were secure. All right, so the goggles weren't just going to fall off his face like a mask would. But did he really want them in pink? He ended up getting the goggles in a dark green to match his hoodie and his hair. It was much simpler to have everything match, rather than trying to worry about accent colours and everything. It's not like Izuku actually cared about what his vigilante alter ego looked like. He just wanted to help people. If he was going to be an actual hero, stuff like looks would be really important, but he didn't think he even deserved to look like a hero. So Izuku didn't really need his vigilante outfit to be anything special. He just needed it to be practical. The guy at the checkout had a unicorn quirk, which Izuku thought was pretty cool. Did he just have the horn, or were there other aspects of his quirk? Could he run faster than the average person? How did the horn affect...
Hey kid, are you actually gonna buy that, or are you just gonna stand there?
Oh, sorry. Izuku put the goggles down on the counter and the guy scanned them.
Nice goggles, kid. You making a cosplay?
Planning out his vigilante outfit was kinda like making a cosplay, right? Yep. The cashier nodded.
Cool. That's where most of our sales come from, you know. But, by the way, if you're going for Hawks, we do have yellow goggles in the same brand.
No thank you. It's, for something else.
The guy shrugged. Gotta admit, I don't know all the heroes, but good luck with your cosplay. Hope it turns out okay.
Izuku nodded. Thank you. Have a nice day. When Izuku got home, he hid the bags in the back of his closet and got to work on his homework, which was deceptively easy as usual. He always got through it too quickly, so he had to go back and second-guess all of his answers because his classmates, even Kacchan, took twice as long, and there's no way Izuku was smarter than them. So, yeah, doing his homework didn't make him any less stressed. Mom called him for dinner, and he was finally finished. She kept glancing at him between bites and always trying to check if he was okay. He didn't know why she was so worried. He hadn't had any negative effects from the villain attack last night, and it wasn't likely he was going to be affected by it now. And Mum couldn't be worried about the bullying because she thought it was a thing of the past. When Izuku was 9, he'd realised that the only one he was hurting by reporting his classmates was himself, because he'd get detention for being a troublemaker. So he told his mum that it had stopped, and had taken up first aid as a hobby. So if it wasn't the villain attack, and it wasn't the bullying, what was she so worried about? "You're quiet tonight, Izuku," Mum said finally. "Is everything okay?" Oh, so she was worried because he wasn't talking. That made sense. But he couldn't tell her about the vigilante thing. She'd be so worried. "Yeah, Mom, I'm all good," he smiled. "It was just a long day at school, so I'm pretty tired." Mum frowned. "Those teachers aren't overworking you, are they?" "No, they're just trying to get us ready for high school. You know how much work that takes." "Oh, well, that's a relief," Mum smiled. "So, have you given any more thought to what high school you want to go to? I know you've had your heart set on UA."
Can you be a hero? Not without a quirk.
Izuku gave a strained smile. I'm not really sure anymore. Don't get me wrong, UA is a great school. It's just... I'm not sure that it's realistic." Inko got a look on her face that was halfway between relief and pity, like she wasn't sure how she was supposed to feel. Izuku could relate. He finished his food and stood to take his dishes to the sink. "Thank you for the food, Mum. I think I'm going to go to bed early tonight." "Okay, baby." Inko stood and gave him a hug. "Just know that I'll support you, whatever you decide, okay?" Izuku smiled for real this time. "That means a lot, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, baby." Izuku woke up to his alarm at 1 a.m. and quickly silenced his phone. Mum was a deep sleeper, but that still didn't mean he could be as loud as he wanted without waking her up. He used the light from his phone and rifled through his closet until he found the hoodie and mask he'd just bought, then quickly pulled out an old pair of black jeans that had gotten ripped when Kacchan had pushed him down the stairs last month, and a black long-sleeve shirt. He put on the hoodie, but held the goggles in his hand for a moment, before finally just stuffing them into the hoodie pocket. Even though he was technically going out as a vigilante, he wasn't actually planning on stopping any crimes tonight. Sure, Izuku's neighborhood wasn't the best, but there were always heroes patrolling during the day, so there shouldn't be too much crime at night either, right? Even if there was, Izuku didn't actually have to get involved. He just wanted to go out and figure out what the streets were like at night. They were bound to look different than they did during the day, and if Izuku was actually planning on being a vigilante long term, it would be best if he didn't get lost just because it was dark. Izuku slipped on his shoes and made sure they were tied tightly before slipping out of the front door and locking it behind them. Then he started to wander. Without the goggles, he just looked like a normal, if slightly idiotic teen out on a midnight walk. He figured he could always slip the goggles on if he ran into any trouble, but until then, they would just look suspicious. The city looked strange at night. During the day, the streets were crowded and Izuku was constantly being distracted by the sheer variety of quirks he saw, but at night, the streets were practically deserted. Most of the people he saw were either homeless or drunk, or both. But they weren't really harming anyone, so Izuku didn't need to get involved. He made mental notes of where the darkest alleys were, or where the street lights were burnt out, so he could disappear quickly into the dark if he needed to. But there didn't seem to be any danger yet. Izuku had been walking for 20 minutes, and was starting to wonder if he'd even run into any crime tonight when he heard it.
This can't be all you've got on you. What kind of guy doesn't even carry a cell phone?
I swear, that's all I have. Izuku ran to the mouth of an alley and saw a group of 3 large thugs ganging up on a smaller teen. He grabbed his goggles from his hoodie pocket and was about to run in when one of the thugs hit a brick wall with his fist and notably cracked it. Oh no, that guy was strong. Izuku ducked behind a dumpster and tried to calm his breathing. There was no way he could fight guys like them. He didn't even have enough muscle to keep Kacchan from beating him up. If he ran in there right now, he'd die. And just because Izuku was kinda apathetic about the whole death thing at the moment, didn't mean he was ready to walk into certain death, especially when that death was almost guaranteed to be extremely painful. But Izuku couldn't just do nothing. The kid was probably really scared, and he was starting to plead with the thugs, so Izuku couldn't just leave him. He needed to be saved. But Izuku couldn't do that, could he? He really was a useless Deku, wasn't he? What was he even good at?
You can't do anything, Deku,
Kacchan had said a couple of weeks ago. Well, he said that all the time, but that was a particular instance that came to mind.
The only thing you're good at doing is running away.
Izuku froze. He was good at running away. Most of the time when Kacchan beat him up, it was because Izuku was trying to defend someone else. But if he was going after Izuku himself, he was usually able to run fast enough to avoid a beating. Izuku stood and ran, unnoticed by the thugs or their victim. It was a crazy plan, and might very well get him caught on his first day as a vigilante, but he had to try. Izuku peeked around the corner, and sure enough, Amplifier was talking to a fan. He'd spent so much time watching hero fights over the years that he practically had every hero's patrol route memorized, but he never thought it would come in handy for anything besides taking notes. Still, there were only a few heroes that were active at night, but Amplifier was one of them, mostly because she fit well into the bar and nightlife scene and was able to control most of the drunks. She was also the closest to the mugging Izuku had witnessed. Making sure his goggles were secure and his hood was up, Izuku grabbed a medium-sized rock and chucked it at Amplifier, wincing when it hit her on the arm. He hoped he hadn't hurt her.
What? Who did that?
Izuku waited until Amplifier saw him, then gave her a shaky smile so she knew that his attack had been intentional. Then he ran.
Hey, kid, get back here!
He glanced behind him and smiled in triumph when he saw that she was following him. He didn't really know how fast Amplifier could run, but she had to be in shape if she was a pro. Izuku sped up, both so that they could get to the mugging faster, and so she wouldn't catch him. The alley was just around the next corner.
Kid, stop! Help!
Shut up! Izuku ducked into a doorway and watched as Amplifier looked torn. On the one hand, she wanted to go after the punk kid that had thrown a rock at her, but on the other, the kid being mugged was obviously in more immediate danger. She cursed, then ran into the alley to stop the mugging. Izuku smiled, ran over to one of the buildings bordering the alley, and started climbing the fire escape. Yeah, It probably wasn't very vigilante-like to stay and watch the fight, but, well, it wasn't like he was actually a vigilante anyway, right? Izuku ended up watching the entire fight from the roof. His fingers twitched, and he decided that he'd need to add a portable notebook to his vigilante outfit. Amplifier's quirk was better for evacuation, since her voice quirk was all volume and very little power. But she was able to imitate some of Present Mike's moves here, since it was a small space, and her opponents were very close range. Mostly, though, she used some form of mixed martial arts to take down the thugs. Izuku stood and started imitating some of her moves to get them down in his brain. If he wanted to actually fight anyone, it'd be good to have at least some idea of what to do, even if he didn't actually have any formal training. He'd have to set aside some time to practice every day if he wanted to get better. But, well, watch and learn, right? Izuku smiled as Amplifier finished fighting the last thug and went to comfort the victim. He'd done it. He'd saved that kid. Well, he hadn't actually done it, but he'd led Amplifier to the fight. After the thugs had been subdued, Izuku climbed back down to the street and ran off to find another crime to stop. He may not be as strong as Kacchan, but he could still save people by playing to his strengths. And what was a useless Deku like him good at? Running away. Hey there guys, gals and non-binary pals, it's Eleanor, and I hope you're having a lovely day today. We've got more Viridian. Sorry about the break between chapters. I wanted to get the next one up a lot closer, but we had a lot of personal stuff going on with, like, my family and stuff. Grieving is hard, am I right? But I hope you guys are all doing very well. What did you guys think about this chapter? I love the beginning of this fic. I love this fic in general, but seeing Izuku kind of start planning out his vigilante lives. I mean, I am always so concerned for him, and I'm like, please don't get yourself killed, son. Please be careful. You can't just jump into things. Do some more research. You're so good at research. And it's so hard seeing Izuku not value himself. It's like, oh, it's so heartbreaking, because I just like want to hug him and like shake him and be like, you're amazing. Don't you realize that you're amazing? But I feel like we all have that person in our life that you just want to shake viciously and be like, why do you not see that you're so amazing? Honestly, I can think of several people in my life that fit into that category. We also have the very beginnings of Bakugo maybe starting to feel a little bit weird about the way that he's been treating Izuku and, like, finding it hard to, like, look at him. I mean, I guess mild spoilers for this fic, but I absolutely love the Bakugo redemption arc in this fic. Ever since I first read it, every single time I see any redemption arc for him, I'm always like, it's not good as this. Even canon, every single time I'm going, no, you should have done it like this. It's great, and I'm very looking forward to getting to voice it and do that. It's going to be really fun. This whole fic is really fun. There's so many characters, so many chapters, but I'm very much excited. If you've read the fic before, what are you most looking forward to in this fic getting to get to? Please also go ahead and like the video, if you liked it, and to boost my serotonin levels. And you can also subscribe to be notified whenever I make new videos. You can also find me on Twitter, or X as it is now. Are you guys going to start calling it X and not Twitter? Personally, it will be Twitter till the day I die. But also, I'm feeling kind of weird about Twitter in general. Mainly because Elon is Elon, so there's that. I also have a Ko-Fi if you want to support me on there. But until I see you again, be sure to practice some self-care. I'm serious, guys. Look after yourself. Please get some rest. Go to sleep on time. Get all those hours that you need. Remember to brush your teeth, because dental health is important. Your 5 a day. And please drink some water. I know how many of you tell me that you don't drink water, and coffee does not count, tea does not count, caffeinated beverages do not count. Drink some actual water straight from the tap. Maybe put some ice in there if you're feeling fancy. I know it's hard and it can be annoying, and sometimes water doesn't feel like it tastes like anything, and you're just there like, oh, it's boring, I need something. I definitely struggled with drinking water a lot, but I have greatly improved in it. Mainly since recording, because I have to sit here and talk a lot, so I drink a lot to like make my voice not like. So do it too. Yes, this is a threat, and I'll catch you guys laters.